Hey everyone, and welcome to the Perfect Bite podcast, your fusion of food and entrepreneurship. You'll hear stories from chefs, restaurateurs, CPG brands, and more from the food and bev industry. All of them are at different points in their journeys, talking about their experiences and how they've cooked up something new. Let's dig in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Perfect Bite podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Perkins. On today's episode, we're talking about an incredibly personal topic, food allergies. I, amongst 10% of the world population, suffer from severe food allergies, and as much as I love food, there are a lot of moments it causes real and extreme fear for me. Today's guests are working on a solution to take that fear away for restaurant guests and help restaurants be more transparent. Please welcome Served app co-founders, Alana Bralsford and Williamson. Hi, you two. How are you? It's so nice to see you across the pond.
Yeah, it's so nice. We're currently in the Techstars London office. So yeah, we saw a couple of people that we're on the cohort with.
And the sun's finally out in London. Actually found out that there's been a 17% increase in just sales in restaurants because people in the UK only like to go out when it's sunny. So definitely helping businesses as well.
I love that. One, I love London. I'm a huge, I guess you could say, Anglophile from here in the US. Very British background in my family. And we're just like that in the Midwest, too. The second that we get above, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, you see people on patios and just excited to be out and out of the winter doldrums here.
Yeah, definitely.
So I want to take things back a little bit here for both of you. When did you each first fall in love with food, and what were some of your favorite foods as kids?
Yeah, I'll start. So coming from a half Asian family, food's always been such a big part of my culture. My mum is amazing at cooking, and I think also I've been so lucky that she's always tried to experiment with every single cuisine. So I've been brought up eating everything. And also I think my sister just was always away. So whenever we come back together as a family, going out to eat, trying new restaurants was a big part of my family. In terms of favorite food, so was going back to before I fell in love with food. When I was a toddler, I was very picky, didn't eat. But one thing I did love was, something in the UK is Yorkshire pudding. My mum used to make me in a mini pasta dish, make me a giant Yorkshire pudding that's on roast dinner Sundays. I would just eat a Yorkshire pudding with cheese. Almost a sandwich would be my dinner. So that's honestly
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. How about you, Eve?
Yeah, so for me, my family, brilliant at cooking. My sister as well is an absolute star baker. And I was known to be the taste tester. I do love cooking myself, but more than happy for them to cook and bake for me. So yeah, so it wasn't picky at all. I'd absolutely try everything. My grandma used to call me a fruit bat because she'd never known anyone to eat as much fruit as me. And I think that came with its own challenges because I was really adventurous with all the foods I wanted to try when I was younger. So yeah, that does come with challenges growing up with severe food allergies.
And would you be able to share which allergies you have?
Yeah, so now I have a tree nut and peanut allergy, peanut being my most severe. But when I was younger, I couldn't have dairy, I couldn't have eggs, I couldn't have soy. There were all sorts of different fruits and vegetables as well that luckily I have grown out of some of them. But yeah, the tree nuts and peanuts has remained with me.
You and me both, sister. The EpiPen comes everywhere.
To everywhere I go, I'm always carrying a bag and people are like, why are you carrying a bag everywhere? Even on a small dog walk or something. And I'm like, got to take my EpiPens out.
100%. Even when I go on a run, I have it in a shorts pocket or a leggings pocket. Just that sense of, I know I'm not about to eat probably, but you just never know. Something could happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's chat a little bit about the journey that has led you two together and what you have been up to before you decided to start your own business.
So I think prior to us both doing engineering at university, we both, I think, were very kind of STEM focused in our backgrounds at school. So I know for me, definitely always knew that engineering was going to be my goal. And then I think in terms of hospitality space, we both held positions like working in hospitality. We've worked in bars, events, but we did at university, did design engineering. And I think whilst we were at Imperial, it really drove us to solve real problems, so that whatever we did solve, we just wanted to make sure that we created a better solution, and also just something that directly affected us too.
Yeah. And I think that's really where Serbs came from. So Alana and I, we met, I think, 5 years ago now, and we met at university. We both did engineering at Imperial, and the thing that we really bonded over was like our love of food. We used to cook together, try new restaurants, and yeah, that's where I think Alana really began to understand my struggles with food allergies as somebody who still wants to go out and try different things, but there'd be so many times where a fun meal out with friends or with family just turns into very scary, life-threatening allergic reactions. Alana would be there with me on my way to hospital and can just see detrimental effect of what always, for me and a lot of others, comes down to breakdown in communication between the guests coming in to eat and the serving staff, and getting the right information so I can make the decision about where I should go and what I should eat. We got to the end of our degree and we thought we have the skills now and some practice on solving these problems with all the knowledge we gained over those years, and just thought we need to build something because honestly, out of frustration.
And I think also to add to that, like resonates so much with me. So I love to cook. I think I've really been brought up learning and cooking. And I think all during university, I really understood the importance of always every time making anything for us, like just checking every single packet and making sure that it's always safe, and knowing that for me, like I get so much joy out of feeding people. And I love the experiences that can be shared over food. It's never just about the food. It's about the people you're with and enjoying food together. And I think that I care so much about this because it all comes down to even I wanting to enjoy the food together, and knowing that that's not just a problem that we face, but so many other people in the world also have this. And we just, I think fundamentally, everyone wants to love those experiences over food.
Yeah. I mean, it's what hospitality is all about. It's about taking care of people, giving them great experiences. And yeah, we're just seeing this needs to be solved.
Yeah, you two are. I'm feeling emotional listening to your answers already. I know we're early on here. And Alana, I just want to thank you for the perspective that you bring to the table as someone who doesn't have the restrictions and the medical condition in that sense, because Eve, I'm sure you've felt this a million times, just the level of guilt when you bring it up to a stranger or reminding friends and family. You don't want to feel like this burden that you're going to bother someone. Or I remember back in my editorial days, I was at a nice lunch in Chicago, and it was, hey, let's try some new dishes so you guys can all write about them later. And there was one that I was like, hey, is there any way we could get it without the nuts? And they came back and said, well, we're just not going to be able to serve you that dish. Chef really doesn't want to compromise. So, well, he has that right. And I also have the right to be safe. So it's interesting where you can feel that push and pull. That was some time ago. So I think that at least my experiences, it's been so much better, increasingly a lot safer, and just a lot more transparency and communication between the staff and myself or anyone else at a table when we're going out to eat, which is great.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point you touched upon, because what we're really working towards doing is we're not saying that every dish is safe for everybody to eat or every restaurant. Our goal is to create a better standard within the sector where if a restaurant is partnered with us, then you as the guest, that they will give you the transparent information about their ingredients, their processes, so you can make the informed decision of where you go and what you can eat on that menu. And nobody understands their allergies better than you. So it's about giving you the right information so you know where you can have a good experience.
Exactly. So tell us about Served. Tell us about the solution that you've created here. What does the platform look like to a restaurant guest versus the restaurants that are using it themselves?
Yeah, so for a guest, they can either view our allergen menus before they go, because we found that around 65% of people with allergies and dietary requirements, they won't go to a restaurant unless they've seen an allergen menu before they go. So it's important to us that this is something digital, it's available before they arrive. And also upon arrival, they can check it, whether that's through a QR code on the table or on the menu. They can access it in a few different ways. But essentially, what our software does is it takes the allergen information from the restaurant, the operators, and then puts it into a really easy format for guests to look through. So they can filter the menu based on their dietary requirements. They can see what allergens are contained, may contain, and if possible, removable from any of the dishes. Really importantly, for a more positive experience, they can hide what they can't eat. So everyone's constantly told, oh, you can't have this, you can't have that. We want to flip that around and say, look at everything you can have. But also that reduces the likelihood of mistakes and helps restaurant staff to be even more confident when serving customers. But that's on sort of the guest experience side.
Excellent. And so from the restaurants, are they then inputting each ingredient? How are you making this easy for the restaurants to update and feel like they're also being transparent here?
Yeah, so at the moment, how the onboarding process works is to restaurants, they can give us their allergen information by any means possible. And what we do is we put it into our own system, and even like the developments we've made internally, like the onboarding process now has gone from about 24 hours to 10 seconds. So we're happy on our side that we've automated a lot of stuff to just make our lives easier and also reduce the risk of human error. But we essentially take all the information on their dishes. So name, descriptions, prices, allergen information, nutritional information, dietary information. And then we use that to populate on our end. And then after that, we will onboard a restaurant, go through the training on how to use our software. And then they have access to a portal that they can go in, they can make any changes, they can add dishes, menus, delete them. And basically, if there's a dish change or a supplier change, they can go in and just update that information. And then that will update the consumer-facing menu in real time. So that's the experience from the restaurant side. And we also make sure that the menus that we create are very much a reflection of their own branding. I think we really understand the importance of branding and how much it matters. And I think all the restaurants we're working with also have such a strong brand presence. So we very much make sure that for a consumer or for a diner, we want them to feel like they're also on the restaurant's website and they're not having a different experience everyone else at the table. So even down to the more granular detail of the order of the menu online is the same as the order that you would have on the physical menu. So yeah, on the restaurant side, what we do.
Very cool. As a marketing gal, I love to hear it that you're staying consistent, because you're right. It's not about the served brand necessarily from that standpoint. It is about their brand in that experience in the moment and showing that they're taking a platform and using that extra level of care. So in that case, are folks having to input changes, say, to served and then the other platforms that they've also got the menu on? Or are you looking at integrations here so that they can say, oh, great, I changed it in one spot, it's changed everywhere?
Yeah, I think what's great about being at this early stage is that, yeah, we're always looking to see how we can deliver more value to our customers, and integrations is definitely something that we're considering. But there's a load that we could do. So it's about choosing the right ones at the right moment, but also making sure that for us, we're not excluding anyone by being specifically to one platform or the other, which is why we say we'll collect it in the safest way possible, in the best way that you can deliver it to us. But yeah, integrations is something that I think is important in this space.
And I think actually just to add, going back on the branding, as much as we want to maintain an almost white labeled menu, we still find it so important to have a built with served or powered by served map. Because for us, we want to be the recognized almost badge or logo that when someone sees it, they will immediately think, no, again, like you said earlier, not guaranteeing this place is safe, but guaranteeing that our partner will be as transparent as possible and they'll have the best experience. And I think that's why we fundamentally want our logo to be everywhere, so it can start to be that most recognizable sign.
Yeah, I could see you having served stickers at the front of restaurants one day, like find us on served or get verified by served, so that it's that extra level of trust and recognition that they're taking another level here.
Yeah, we have some designs, I think, that we're looking through and deciding between.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's about creating that standard and that trust that it's not been there before within the sector. Yeah, it's really exciting.
It is. So let's talk a little bit more about trust and safety here. This is a space that can get real muddy really quickly. I mean, you have not only medical safety issues on the line here, but unfortunately, if you're in the US, the UK, anywhere, that means you're going to have some level of insurance and legal liabilities on the line as well. So because you're building something that has such a sensitive topic behind it, what kind of research and development have you had to do and work with others so that you can almost build a product that has the highest level of compliance for something like this?
Yeah, so we're working closely with the Food Standards Agency to make sure when we're working with our customers, they're doing everything they can to be as compliant as possible. I think what we're building is a tool to help them be more transparent with everything they do. And I think we're making sure that what we build follows the guidance and current legislation that does exist. So the Food Standards Agency is what informs the government, and that's where legislation does get passed. So on our side, that's what we're doing. I think one thing that's really important for us is that we're very clear that we're not there to replace the conversation that happens between the diner and the server. It's very much to facilitate that conversation. And it's always so important that the consumer feels comfortable that they can actually still communicate to allergies, because there might be other things that they need to let the kitchen know as well. I think it's always just so important that that conversation still happens.
Yeah, I think that one thing that we found, and that I think people are often shocked by, is that people struggle to effectively communicate their needs because there has been a lot of stigma around this. I can't even count the amount of times that somebody said that they don't really understand how a bit is okay, or that it's not poison, it can't actually kill me. And I think that after kind of years of being met with that and being made to feel like you're just being fussy, or you're trying to hold them up or make their lives harder, and they are working in an incredibly busy environment, but it's also about reducing that stigma and saying this isn't something that you should be embarrassed to talk about. It's something that everyone should be able to speak up about, because people often make the comparison to if someone's a vegan, they're very outspoken about it and you often know. So why can't it be the same for somebody who has an allergy?
That's very true. And maybe because it is that fear of, well, there is suddenly going to be this attention on me.
Yeah.
It's life-threatening. And again, that sense of burden. And so I love that you're coming in and saying, even to the folks who say, oh gosh, another thing to learn, another restaurant tech platform to learn, they're going, oh, okay, this is actually going to make my job easier.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways when I'm talking to folks, so that they don't have that moment of, I'm new, let me go check with the chef, I'll be right back. And then suddenly there's minutes in between and you're like, can I eat here?
Yeah.
Or everyone kind of panics in that moment when they don't have the tools and the knowledge at hand on both sides.
Yeah, and I think what we really want to do is really help restaurants and servers not think that allergies are some scary black box they shouldn't touch. Even from my experiences, I've got some quite mild allergies, and I've had almost a flip side where I try and communicate and say, please can I not have nuts on my food? For example, I can't have raw almonds, but I could easily eat macaroons. And I think even though
it's like a food sensitivity.
Yeah, and even though it's much mild, it's then as soon as it's said, it's almost again the red alert goes off. And I think even that communication piece of for example, I know what I'm comfortable with, Eve knows what she's comfortable with, and we have different levels. And it's almost trying to find the best way that we can almost help that communication happen. And I think we really want to make sure that it doesn't become this scary piece that no one wants to touch, but actually just really enhance that understanding and know that almost allergies and food sensitivities are just a spectrum.
Yeah, and I think that often very real experiences with people who have intolerances or food sensitivities where it can cause a significant amount of discomfort for them, but it's not necessarily life-threatening. I think that can add a lot of confusion, because there's two scenarios that normally happen. Either it's that panic or it's that complete kind of lack of understanding of the seriousness.
Right.
And often in that second scenario, it's because they've been well, I've served people before who said they can't have something, but then when the dessert comes out, they do have it or they have a little bit. And it's about, communicating those different levels of severity, but also care that needs to be taken in those situations that I think will really help on the serving side.
And I think also there's such a business advantage here where I think realizing that it's all about the customer experience. And yes, there are very different consequences depending on if it's someone with an allergy versus an intolerance versus just a preference. But in every situation, if you can't cater to them or don't cater to them in the correct way, like they won't come back. Like they will have a bad experience and they'll say to everyone else, like, we're never going to come back again. And I think that restaurants will be then losing the business. And I think that's what we're trying to show, that in each of these cases, it's obviously food needs to be dealt with in a different way. But in terms of actually understanding that they need to be catered for, that's where we're really trying to show that we should still care.
Yeah. And there's obviously, huge risks where we see like very kind of heartbreaking incidents of things going wrong. People lose their lives from this miscommunication. Yeah. And it's just all about what can we do to actually, for businesses that don't understand the problem, help educate them on this and see that this is a very big, scary problem, but how can we break it down into manageable steps of communicating what you can. So it's definitely interesting to see how kind of different restaurants react. Either they really understand the problem, others are more financially driven and they're more interested to see if there's a financial upside, which we have seen. I'm sure, as you know yourself, people with allergies and intolerances, they're a very loyal customer. Once they've had a great experience, they'll come back time and time again. So there is a positive to serving people, because it can be so isolating. There's so many times that I've decided not to go somewhere and leave myself out of situations or sit there with no food. And I think that's not spoken about enough, how isolating it can be.
Yeah, I can't tell you the number of events I've gone to that have passed appetizers, and either the waitstaff, like I'm never going to see them again if I ask them to go double check, or most of the time I actually just don't eat, just like you, where I'm like, it's okay. I'm just not going to take the risk right now. There's a lot happening in this room and I'll just grab something after or make sure I eat before. So I appreciate this so much. And I can't wait for millions of people to be able to use this app. You're in an incredible food city in London. What's it been like building relationships with chefs, with different restaurant brands? And tell us about some of the folks that you're starting to work with.
Yeah, so it's definitely been a huge learning curve for us. So we previously worked small jobs in hospitality, but obviously don't have a lifetime sector experience. So we've just been getting stuck in as much as we can. We did our first ever conference, I think 2 weeks ago now. That is HRC, it's Hotel, Restaurants and Catering in London. And we actually had a panel discussion on the tech stage, which was really exciting. I think people are starting to recognize us more. And we're getting our name and faces out there in the sector. We've actually just signed our first commercial contract. So our product will be going live at the end of the month. And we signed that with Dishoom, and we're going live in their permit room locations.
Holy cow. So again, anyone who is listening who's not in the UK, Dishoom is an Indian institution in London. And gotta go. I gotta eat. And I love that you actually chose that cuisine as well, because that is one where, again, if you've got a nut allergy, it can get a little scary sometimes. There's a lot of cashews involved. So excited. Congratulations. That is a huge name to kick things off here.
Yeah, thank you. And I think just to add in terms of how we've built our relationships, I think we've really learned that it's all about warm introductions. And also in this space, the hospitality industry is quite interconnected and most people do know everyone. And I think in a way at first that was quite daunting because we have the new kids on the block. Like no one, again, basically just come out of university, as you've said, like very little experience. And I think at first realizing everyone knew each other, but I think we've been greeted with such warmth as we've got to know people and we've met such lovely people. Everyone wants to help and be a support. And I think we're really starting to establish ourselves in the industry, get to know people. We've tried like the kind of cold door-to-door sales going into places that didn't really work. And
I like to say that that's like the best rejection therapy you can do.
Yes. 100%. When you walk in, they're like, no, we're not talking to you. Stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think from like building those relationships in this sector, we obviously came at this from a guest experience side of things, ourselves essentially wanting to be the end users of this, but really getting to understand the operational sort of struggles that restaurants have in managing this information. It's been amazing to have people on board as sort of design partners in this space to give an operational perspective on, okay, how can we make a product that gives a great guest experience, but also makes the side of managing allergens within operations easier and not more difficult. And I think another point to add on to Dishoom as to why we decided to work with them is that they are honestly brilliant at guest experience and guest loyalty. They have queues outside their restaurants for like honestly up to 2 hours. People wait in the cold in winter for 2 hours for a table in there. And it's because they care so much about delivering brilliant experiences. And that definitely shows with what we're trying to do with them.
Yeah. And speaking of working with folks from the operational perspective of things, what kind of feedback have you gotten so far? What's the positive feedback? And what are some things that made you say, that's a really good point, we need to build that into the product or approach that differently?
So I think we've been getting some really great feedback. I think just on the ease of use, I think the main thing we always wanted to make sure was that we didn't add any more operational complexity in kitchens. They're putting out fires left, right, and centre, both figuratively and literally. So I think it's great to hear like from the operational side that what we've built from almost their back end login is like super simple to use, really intuitive, almost leaves very little room for make any errors. And obviously, we're dealing with such a sensitive thing that I think it's great to hear that how we've built it means that when someone is inputting the allergies or the allergens, it's really hard to make a mistake. And I think we're making sure that also people in charge are taking ownership over who made what change as well, making sure that there's always a log of that so that they know their name is on whatever change gets made. I think on the consumer facing menu, both for operators and also from people using it, they're saying that they're loving how easy it is to use. Again, reflecting Eve's point about positive experience of showing what you can eat. I think we're really helping the kitchens reduce their order taking time and allowing the chefs to make sure they can focus on cooking in the kitchen rather than relaying information of what they can and can't do.
Yeah. And also, just about the delivering better experiences. So in some of our pilots, we saw an increase in 5-star reviews and also loyal customers. We're up to 4 times as loyal as the average customer. So it's about, okay, give them a great experience. They'll come back. They'll be that decision maker and friends or family of where they go. And they are incredibly valuable, loyal customer to have on board. But also, if you're not giving them the information, then you're not even an option for them. So it's about opening up this new customer segment for restaurants that they weren't even realizing that they were excluding.
Absolutely. So these folks can already track that you're saving them time as well as increasing their bottom line just from working with you for a little bit here, which is incredible. How are you looking to grow? So you're currently in the UK. How are you looking to expand within a huge global city like London itself and then beyond?
Yeah, so obviously we did the Techstars program in the US. So I think we got a really good understanding of the differences between the UK and the US. For us, that's given us great insight into how we can expand and the different ways in which we need to think about it. But for us, it was always really important to tackle this problem at home. And in London, we're seeing a lot of very progressive guidance from the Food Standards Agency, but also legislation coming through that is, very forward thinking. And we think that it aligns well with where we want to start. We've also recently signed a partnership with another hospitality tech company called StockTake Online. They operate in the UK, in the US, but also a large amount in the Middle East. And they're seeing more and more requests from their customers for a solution like ours because of legislation changing there and also guest needs and wants and dining patterns. So they approached us for that partnership, and that's really exciting indicator to us that there are huge opportunities beyond the UK as well.
That was such a smart decision too, in that you said, hey, we were approached by someone else who already has a footprint in other spots, who already has restaurants. It's a built-in way when you work with partnerships like that to just instantly increase your market so quickly, which is awesome. I also love that you're teaming up with other food and restaurant tech solutions, because other folks that you've heard here on the podcast too, we all talk about just how disjointed it all is. Whether you're a guest or whether you're a restaurant or someone who is in hospitality, you're essentially being asked to use a million different solutions all the time, and it can get very confusing. So the fact that you're continuously thinking about partnerships and integrations is really going to go far, I think.
Yeah, I think on that. So we got some stats actually from a company called Tech on Toast, their hospitality consultancy. They're finding that up to 80% of hospitality tech companies, their inbound comes from referrals, not necessarily from direct sales. I think it's very much those kind of partnerships that really do help hospitality industry. And I think the patterns that we're seeing are from like operators that they're looking for almost a bespoke or expert services like in their niche, and finding ways to integrate them rather than finding a one-size-fits-all solution. So I think in terms of the advantages for a supplier, it's great that almost staying in your lane actually comes to an advantage for you. And also for the operator, was creating something that they can almost all kind of stick together and integrate also means that each individual supplier is much more sticky as well, because once they're integrated all together, then that's great for everyone involved.
Like Tech on Toast as well, huge shout out to them. They're amazing support for us. And they're all about, okay, how can we give operators really useful information on how to improve their tech stack? And yeah, it's interesting to see that the trend is going towards, okay, let's get things that work really well in their niche to then just connect together and work seamlessly.
Yeah, I could see this being an exit strategy for a number of companies as well. So I would love that for you. And from an operational standpoint too, I think I've also heard that just folks don't want another solution to have to train their team and have to learn themselves and another fee on top of it. So the more that this can get combined and folks can work together with, like you said, with your specialties, I think it's really going to help everyone in the end. So speaking of these new markets, you were here in the US last year. You mentioned you had been part of the Techstars Future of Food program, which is actually in Minneapolis. So you were way up north in the Midwest. Tell us what it was like to be in a startup accelerator like that and to also be so far away during that time period. What was it like to go on that adventure together?
I know, I think looking back on it, it was such a whirlwind. We had the first call saying that they wanted us to come out and do the program. And then we moved out there within 2 weeks. So a really quick turnaround. But we were like, we've got to do it, because for us, it wasn't only that it's a brilliant program, but it's also so focused on food tech and anything within that space. So for us, being able to get expertise from people connected in that sector was so important. It wasn't just a general program. And I think that's what we really needed. The program itself is sort of intense by design. I think it really pushed us to focus on what's the right path for us to really cut through the noise. Like, you get so many differing opinions, a lot of which are brilliant, but you need to learn how to make your path through that and find the right direction for you. And I think it was a big point for us where we were like, okay, this is an achievement that we got there. But it was also definitely a reminder, it was like just the beginning.
Yeah.
I think it gave us both so much clarity on the things that we were good at, but also the things that we needed to improve on, the things that we had no idea that we didn't even know about running a business, and the things that we very quickly needed to learn a lot about. And yeah, I think it just gives you such a supportive ecosystem of the Techstars team, who are brilliant, but also the founders, people who we still chat with every week and sometimes see in person though. Yeah.
And I think like being so far away in a way, so we'd actually both moved home to our families. They took us back after university and we bootstrapped the company. So we weren't paying ourselves and really just put our all into the company. And I think it had been like nearly a year we'd been at home. And I think we were so ready for that change. I think we've been working at home, and I think that kind of next step or kind of a milestone for us. So I think as much as it was, definitely scary moving halfway across the world, I think was the right time for us. And I think it was helped us push us out of our comfort zone to move to that next level. Definitely got quite homesick and trying to recreate as many kind of dishes that we used to make at home. So we came back halfway through, and I think my suitcase back, I think I just packed so much food, like English food to bring back so we could like cook things. And also watched so many like English TV shows, rewatched all of Harry Potter, just trying to feel some element of home. But no, I think we loved it. Loved, everyone we met. I think it was a really great time for us also to get our heads down and just work. I think almost being away from everyone helped us really just focus for 3 months.
Less distractions.
Yeah.
You're not back in your home environment. So Alana mentioned we graduated university and this was just an idea. We then went home, took some time, organize ourselves, and then I think really decide to like, okay, we're going all in on this. And everyone thought that we were honestly crazy. The amount of times everyone was like, when are you going to get a real job? Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Because the idea of working for no pay is to most people absolutely absurd. And I guess it is, but the thing we just kept falling back on was like, it's a problem we want to solve. And we thought it was completely worth our time to do that.
I used to get that type of response from family members as well. Like, I don't know what a startup is. You have such a nice education. Why don't you get a job? Or just calling me in the middle of the day because they didn't realize that maybe just because I'm working from a co-working space or from home, that somehow must mean I don't work. And so it is funny, the perception around that. And I love that Harry Potter is like the universal British comfort movie series. I'm hoping there was some great British Bake Off on your screens as well. That's always one of my favorites.
I love Bake Off, but it makes me so
oh my God. Yeah, you got to have a snack.
Yeah.
And have a sweet treat while you're watching Bake Off. And if you're ever Top Chef fans, that's always one that gets me hungry as well and gets me excited. So you mentioned, again, I mean, you two have known each other for 5 years. You've become friends. You've become co-founders. You're roommates now, too. Talk to us about the balance that you try to instill where you're saying, okay, we do everything together and we work on something that we're putting everything into. What are you guys doing to relax? What are you doing, as the Brits say, to keep calm and carry on and find some fun?
Yeah, so I think we've actually lived together nearly 5.5 years, I think.
Apart from the blip at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but we lived together throughout university. I think we've always had a very similar work ethic. I think we know when we're working, we work so hard, and that might be for a day, that might be for 5 days straight with no sleep kind of thing. We don't do that as much now. But then I think we really know when to turn off, and we have very similar ways of winding down. I think we're, in terms of our own communication and making sure we manage, obviously, balancing working together, living together, also being friends, just making sure always have consistent, like open and honest communication. Never argued. Obviously, there's been like big or difficult conversations, like with the company as well, as I'm sure all founders get to. But it's just about making sure that we lay all our cards on the table, talk about everything.
Yeah.
And it means that we're both very in tune with each other's emotions and the ups and downs that can come with running a company. I think it's so good that, like, for founders, they need to be there for each other, for the good, the bad.
Yeah, and I think that just on that, it's just like there are so many ups and downs, and everybody tells you, okay, you're going to have like ups and downs, you're going to have high highs, low lows, and you're like, yeah, okay. And then like you're literally going from your absolute best week ever to then something that happens that just brings you back down. And it's about like just going through the motions. And yeah, I think giving each other space, that because we are working so closely and doing a lot, that giving each other the space to be like, okay, I need to do my thing today. I need to do this, and be able to just have our own schedules. I think, although one of our mentors told us, like, I don't think you realize right now how much control you have, although everything feels like it's out of your control, like the amount that we control where we work, when we work. If we really just into what we're doing and working on, we can work on the weekends and we get a lot of enjoyment from that. But then also if we're feeling like really tired and stressed out, okay, what can we do here? How can we like rely and lean on each other to pick things up? Because I think that's one of the scariest moments as founders, that if you're not working, then nothing is happening. And that's really scary. Like if you get ill or if you're just really tired and you've worked too hard that month or that week, and just seeing how you can just be there for each other. And yeah, both of us work together in that sense.
That's smart. And remember, it's a marathon. So like you said, you might need breaks. You might need to slow down to avoid burnout, to avoid injury in some cases, emotional, mental, and otherwise, and have fun with it. I think like that's the thing that sometimes founders and entrepreneurs forget is this is an amazing opportunity to have your own thing and to not be in a corporate grind that maybe you don't feel is the right fit for you. So I think there is a lot of chance to reflect and say, look how cool this is that we get to do this.
Yeah. I think it's always just reminding ourselves to enjoy the journey. Like every kind of founder that we look up to that has had loads of success, they've always said they miss this sort of phase where everything is scrappy. There's a super small team where you're agile and you can just pick what you want to learn as you go as well. And so, yeah, I think being able to talk to other founders who are a bit further ahead and being able to just like really remind ourselves to, even though this week it might be a really tough week, but you still need to just enjoy the process because you're doing what you're choosing to at the end of the day. Nobody's forcing you to do a startup. Honestly, it can be a lot of friction to doing it with a lot of things you mentioned about, okay, you're going to get a real job. And I think that, yeah, that can get you down. But yeah, just learning to enjoy the process of it all and celebrating the little things as you go and learning more and more about each other as well. And like, we have very similar work ethics, but we also have different ways in which we like to work as well. So it's just being able to just have that really good understanding of what each other needs.
And I think upon reflection, like sometimes I laugh to myself about why we're actually fundamentally doing this. Like we love eating, and essentially it comes from the fact that we love to eat. And I think there's also like the perks of the job. And I think the more that we grow into the company, there's so much eating involved. We don't go to restaurant meetings, they're lunch meetings, they're dinner meetings. I popped into a client and they're like, oh, I'm trying this new recipe for our arancini. Do you want? And they just served me arancini and croquettes. And it's just great. So it's type of thing where it's actually going outside of just the company side, but just why we're fundamentally doing it. It's all about the food. And I think it's so great that we can always share that again together and just get to eat so many great things.
I love that. You're like, yes, we are here to talk about a contract, but oh no, you're going to have to feed me. Oh no. Oh, this is so great. Tell me, what are some things that we can look forward to coming up? Any new features or rollouts? And what do you hope for the future?
So I think we're always continuing to improve our software every time we speak to a new partner. So we're always seeing what we can do for them so we can bring them value, really understanding what their needs are, how we can best solve that. And I think there's nothing right now to announce, but it's very much, as you've said, we're so agile and always looking at when we're talking to potential partners, starting to tally up common things we hear that we can also introduce as features and make sure that it can be the best solution for the partner.
You get so many different opinions, whether that's like from mentors, clients, whatever that might be. Everyone's always got a new idea, and it's about, okay, how can we actually think about this in a way that it's going to deliver value across the board? Because you don't want to get stuck in the little silos or like rabbit holes and down one route. You've just got to take on board like everything that you're hearing and then be able to think, okay, what's the right direction for the product? Because we know that it's continuous improvement and we've got to be close to our customers and listen to what they're saying, because at the end of the day, we need to provide a solution that's helping them, providing value, because that's the win-win at the end of the day.
Absolutely. So last question before we get to the world's best and hardest question here. What piece of advice would you share for anyone who's looking to start their own thing?
One thing that I get told so much is like, oh, I would love to do that, but I could never do it. Like they're just scared to take the step on doing something on their own and scared of not having structure. which definitely can be scary. It's very nice to be laid out a plan with very key targets. You need to do this day, and it's almost so zoomed in. It can be scary to have that complete like freedom, and it's scary to have to create that structure yourself. But I think honestly, just people, you just have to go for it. If there's something that you're really passionate about, that will keep you going. And I think that if we weren't passionate about it, I don't know how long we would have lasted, because that is the thing that you fall back on. And I think also just we weren't scared to do this straight out of university. Everyone said that the older you get, the kind of harder it gets to do, because you have more responsibilities, there's more kind of risk involved. So for us, just like taking the plunge before we'd even had a job with a nice salary, I think that was really useful because we didn't get used to that. So yeah, honestly, if it's something that you're passionate about, yeah, you just got to give it a go.
And I think on that as well, like, I think we're both so grateful that our parents support us and let us move home so that we could give it a go. And I think on that, just if you do go and like almost take that step and go through the motions of starting a company, always remaining grateful and looking for the good things still feel positive about, because there are so many ups and downs. And I think also one thing that I've always been raised on, which I think my parents do sometimes regret, is always, if you don't ask, you don't get. So just always ask, like, whether, I think a lot of the time, especially as we're learning about, say, fundraising in this environment as women, like, or just being women, like being starting a company, it's like a lot of women don't ask for enough. And I think it's just always ask for money when it comes to, you're trying to get a client, ask them to pay you or ask for advice. Just, you're never going to know unless you ask.
Yeah.
Something that we've definitely learned.
And I think it's definitely scary, but I think the thing that helped us is, worst case scenario, they're going to say no. And then you're going to realize, okay, they've said no. I need to figure out why they've said no, or whether the price point's wrong, whether the product's not good enough yet. And you just don't get that kind of feedback unless you ask those difficult questions. And yeah, I think we've had a great network of female founders and that we've been able to build as we've gone on the journey. And I think it's definitely something that I think female founders struggle with more. So just putting yourself out there and asking those questions, was like really pivotal for us.
I think actually this is Techstars' kind of motto, is always to give first. So yeah, if you can give back to anyone, I think it's always definitely what goes around comes around. So always being kind and like supportive. And if you can do anything for anyone, always trying to do that, because you never know, at any point it might come back around to you as well and you might need it. And I think it's been so important just being kind. And it is such a journey, and everyone's on their own journey with it, whether they're solo founders or they have co-founders. Everyone's on their own unique paths, but I think a lot of people can resonate with each other on it. So it's just always being kind and showing you can be there for everyone if you have the capacity to.
I think that's so important. You all have many good pieces of advice here, so thank you. Alrighty, so final question here. So this podcast is called The Perfect Bite. It's a perfect bite of my career to date as someone who was on the journalist editorial side of things, to being a startup founder, to working with food and bev founders myself. And it's also because each of us has our own perfect bite. So our own unique taste buds, memories, favorite spots and dishes, and they're completely unique to us. So I'll ask each of you, Eve and Alana, what is your perfect bite?
Gonna go. There's something that we make together that we absolutely love.
So again, like, as you said with memories, I feel like food very much is when you like a memory of time, and like different things relate to different periods in our lives. But something we love together is salmon crispy rice. So making sushi rice, letting it go cold and then frying it into little cubes, and then we make almost like all the trimmings like we have a roast dinner, but in having like a teriyaki salmon, a whipped kind of sesame avo, a chili mango salsa, Asian salad, like sriracha mayo, like fried crispy onions and garlic. But basically, I think it's such a great like with community all together meal, because you just put everything out in the middle. Everyone just goes and almost builds these like stacks of like rice with all the toppings, and it's a messy meal, but I think everyone just gets so stuck in, and it just tastes so good. Like, all the flavors together are just
I think it's the one thing that we're always like, it's like a showstopper and we love making it together. I think that's also part of it, is the making each little thing that everyone can put their own like perfect bite together, I guess. There's one other thing for me that I have to mention. My sister, I mentioned, is like incredible baker, and my absolute top thing that she makes is a chocolate Guinness cake. And oh my God, I'm definitely more of a savory person, but for a sweet thing, that is my perfect bite. It's like really rich chocolate. There's like Guinness in it as well, with like cream cheese frosting. It's just top tier.
And I think I think the food that I always go back to if I ever think about it is when I was in Chicago, like 10 years ago now.
I hometown.
Yeah, there was a restaurant, Topola Bombo, and I remember just having two dishes. One dish was like a tuna and beef tartare, but like just all the flavors. I remember it was like tears being brought to my eyes, because like it was just the most like beautiful, like just culmination of flavors ever. And I still think about it to this day. So
I think we've given you 3 there.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
I'm going to say each one of them could be the most perfect dinner ever. I cannot believe one of your favorite bites is from Topa. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Connected no matter where we are, all by food. And I enjoyed that you all said a perfect bite that you love to create together is something that each person can make into their own thing. And at the end of the day, you feel satisfied, you feel safe, and you feel brought together. Oh, thank you. Those are all beautiful.
Oh,
Alana and
what's
Eve,
your-
this has been fun. Oh, what's mine?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, no, it's fast. So this is actually really difficult for me because, and I know it's a little demonic that I ask this question, but yet my answer changes consistently based on the mood or the type of food I'm thinking of. I will say there is a spot in Scottsdale, Arizona called Pizzeria Bianco. I had heard about it from the Netflix Chef's Table pizza series. And Chris Bianco is, New York guy who went out to Arizona, and he makes the most incredible pizza. And as a Chicagoan, I'm a huge pizza snob. And we ordered a couple of these pizzas when we were out there, Tim and I, for a nice Valentine's Day trip. We escaped the Midwest for a little bit of warmer weather. We get in line early because it opens at 11 a.m. and you have to line up by 10:30, 10:40 to get any sort of table in this small spot. You see it come out of the wood-fired oven. We had ordered 2 types, and the margarita pizza, when I bit into it, I smiled, just the biggest smile, because each ingredient, it really did taste different. It really tasted special. So that is one of my perfect bites.
Wow. I feel like I was there with you. That was amazing.
Thank you. Well, we're all going to have a meal next time that we make it over to London. It has been on my list to come back, and we're going to use the Served app to find the perfect spot for all of us to eat. So thank you again so much for your time. This was so fun. Alana and Eve, can you tell us social accounts, the website, where we can connect with Served in any way and download and use the app?
Yeah. Our website is served-app.com.
socials, I think, are served.app, both on TikTok, Instagram, and then our LinkedIn as well, just Served app. But yeah, definitely trying to grow on our socials. Started filming last night some content, so that's actually something exciting.
Yeah, we're filming some new content for like videos of taking people out to eat, and then being able to talk about like their dietary preferences, and just having great conversations with interesting people about it.
Oh, I can't wait. Everyone, you have to go follow Served and follow the journey that these 2 amazing women are continuing on and bringing to the world. Thank you again for working on a solution that is not only easy, but just incredibly important. When I heard about it, I was just so excited to talk to you 2. Can't wait to use it myself.
Thank you. And thank you for having us. This has been so fun.
Oh, well, thank you again for joining us, everyone. This was Alana Bralsford's and Eve Williamson's Perfect Bite.
Thanks for tuning in to The Perfect Bite today.
You can listen to future episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Thanks in advance for subscribing, rating, and reviewing. You can follow The Perfect Bite on social media @PerfectBitePod. Now go get something good to eat.